Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for those who are leaving comments. I haven't done a live webinar through this platform for a little while, and I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, I've got over 250 people registered. Can they hear me? Can they see me? Is it going to be okay? But it's looking like it's good. So thanks so much, everyone, for jumping on. If you can hear me and the visual is okay, can you just let me know in the chat as well? So hello, Vanita. Hello, Katrina. Hello, Beth, Tara, Kirsty as well, who's a nutritional consultant. So we've got naturopaths, nutritionists, amazing. Now, there's going to be those of you that are logged in and commenting. There's going to be those that are in the background just stalking and being there. And there's going to be those of you that are watching the replay as well. I know this. So as people are jumping on, what I would really love for you to do is just introduce yourself if you haven't, if you have the capacity to do that, and also to just let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. And I know there's always a little bit of a delay with this. So the technology that we're using for this is YouTube Live, a thing called StreamYard, that also Kajabi. So there's a few things going on to make this happen the way that we need it to happen. So if you can just give me that feedback that it's working okay, then that would be amazing. So I think we should get started. Welcome everyone. And also hello to you if you are watching the replay of this webinar. My name is Catherine Maslin. Oh, thank you so much, Vanita. My name is Catherine Maslin. I am a clinical naturopath nutritionist, author, host of the Shift podcast, coach, mentor, and founder and CEO of Shift Clinics. So my specialty, and I guess what I'm really passionate about, is inciting change in people. And I do that through my naturopathic practice with clients. And I do that also through the people that I mentor and the businesses that I work with. And on an overarching side, my mission in this life is to change healthcare, to include naturopathy, nutrition, and these modalities that we know work so well. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I want to start with introducing myself a little bit and letting you know about how I got here. What is the lens in which I'm looking at giving you this information this evening? So let's go through that. Now, as we go through this webinar masterclass, please ask questions. If I can't get to them during the session, I'm going to have time for questions at the end, questions about anything you would like. So really try and milk this and get the most out of it. It can be specific stuff around your practice. It can be whatever you like. So my story began in Melbourne. I grew up in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and I had quite a tumultuous childhood. So I grew up in a household in a suburb called St Albans with my mother and father and my 4 other siblings. Unfortunately, my dad was an alcoholic. So my childhood was quite violent, quite tumultuous, and I guess one thing led to another. And by the time I was 15 years old, I was homeless, addicted to heroin, and living on the streets of Melbourne City. Now, this is a picture of Flinders Street Station. And you can see here, you've got all the trains, but there was a spot just here where myself and some other displaced teens used to hang out. So it was really a dark time in my life. Now, what happened was, I was very fortunate that I had a little angel tap on my shoulder. I was taken off the streets by the Salvation Army. And then what happened was I was living in this sort of halfway house for messed up girls, which I was one of. And I got a phone call, and it was from my friend, and her mother was extracting her out of Melbourne and moving her to Far North Queensland. And she said, "Kat, would you like to come with us?" Massive crossroads in my life. So I was lucky enough to get extracted out of Melbourne and move to Far North Queensland to the Daintree rainforest. Now, I don't know who's been to Daintree, but it is absolutely stunning and beautiful. And this is a place called the Blue Hole. It's an actual swimming hole that we used to go to. So I guess the first part of my healing was being in this amazing natural environment and just being completely out of there. But the second really important thing that happened to me in Far North Queensland was I met a family And the mother of the family, Jenny, became like a second mother to me. And Jenny was such a beautiful soul. We used to sit around her table and have cups of tea. So this is a photo of Jenny Penn and Robbie Penn. Robbie Penn considered himself a bit of a pirate. He was a pommy. He had a huge crocodile tooth around his neck, which you could probably see there. And his favorite saying was, "Nothing exceeds like excess." So he was quite a character. Jenny, on the other hand, was beautiful and gentle, and we used to sit around having these most amazing conversations. And as we sat there, what I noticed was Jenny was sick. She had a condition called lupus, a progressive autoimmune disease. You guys are practitioners, you're probably on board with what that is. But as I sat there, I noticed this medication cabinet that she had sitting up on the bench just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So more and more medication, but she wasn't really getting any better. And I just asked myself, like, what's going on? There's got to be a better way. It was the first time in my life I'd really experienced someone that was truly unwell. And it really made me take pause and think, this just isn't right. One thing led to another. And as it happened, I stumbled across a book on herbal medicine. It was quite a romanticized book called Herbal Rituals. It was by a herbalist called Judith Berger, who's in America. And I loved it. It talked about red clover and licorice and nettles and like really the energetics of it and that side of things and the traditions, but also the scientific stuff around it. And I was like, why isn't everybody taking herbs? I still feel that way today. And I'm definitely a herbalist at heart. So I got this book, moved down to Brisbane to study naturopathy and a Bachelor of Western Herbal Medicine, which then turned into naturopathy nutrition. So I did that. And halfway through my degree, I got a phone call one day. I was sitting out the front of the university. I was smoking a cigarette. Okay. So this is where we all have our journeys and different places that we come from. But while I was in my first couple of years of university, I was still smoking cigarettes. Can you believe it? So I'm smoking a cigarette and I get this phone call from Bonnie. And she says, "Kat, Mum's passed away." And my heart just dropped. I'd never had anyone close to me before that had passed away. And it really hit me hard, but it also strengthened my resolve to know that we have to do better. We have to do better by people. And I think a little part of Jenny really runs through everything that I do, both in seeing clients in the clinic, and the bigger mission that we're trying to achieve is to change healthcare and to fix our healthcare system. And I think that what Jenny went through really was a really big part of that. So that's sort of what happened for me. So now, since then, I've been practicing for about 18 years, so almost 20 years, which is pretty crazy. I wrote a book called Get Well, Stay Well, which became a bestseller about 8 years ago. I have a second book on the way called Safe to Heal, which is about how do we provide safe environments to heal on all levels. And I also I made a podcast called The Shift, which some of you guys definitely would have listened to. So The Shift is an audio documentary series. We won awards for The Shift, which was really exciting. And it is really one of the core educational and content pieces that we have. And we're going to talk about soon, different ways that we can bring people into the clinic and get them engaged. And The Shift is a really core thing that we have going on at Shift at the moment. We have a beautiful Brisbane clinic, which is our headquarters, where we have a team of 12 people. And here in Brisbane, we do multimodality, acupuncture, massage, energetic healing, kinesiology, et cetera, nutrition, naturopathy. So over the 15 years almost that we've had this practice, I've really had the opportunity to see not only for naturopathy, but for all different modalities, what works for bringing clients in and keeping clients. And I've got a really acute awareness for that. In more recent years, I've gone on to do my NLP practitioner and coach training. So I'm an elite coach and master NLP practitioner. And what that basically means is I'm very, very good at linguistics, neurolinguistics, understanding how language works, how people's brains and minds work, and how their beliefs and inner systems influence their outcomes. And this is actually a part that I've been very, very interested in throughout my entire career. And by doing this extra training, it's sort of given me the next level to be able to integrate it more. I'm going to talk about a little bit of that stuff this evening because that's really important. So the coaching mentoring stuff is something that I'm really, really passionate about and I love doing. And this is why I did launch a course called Patient Mastery. I'm going to be telling you guys about it as we go through this webinar, through this masterclass. Okay, so tonight you're going to be, or tonight, replay, whatever you're watching, you're going to get some really good gems. You should walk away with several things you can take and implement immediately. If you want more, I'm going to be telling you about my Patient Mastery mentorship. I think it's something that's really, really helpful to practitioners that haven't been able to really fill their books and find their feet. So as we go through, I'll talk about real life examples of things that I've gone through with the clinic and what happens with practitioners. And I know that for you, some of this stuff will resonate. And I know that a lot of you are going to want to jump on this program after this. We only have 20 spots. So if it's something that you really want to be involved in, it's something that you need to jump on. So I'll talk about that a little bit more too. But we're here to talk about how to get fully booked. Do you know what the travesty is in our industry? Is that we have all of these amazing practitioners who are passionate, who are in it from heart normally, right? They're doing it because they want to help people and do better. You usually graduate with an insane amount of knowledge, but sometimes you don't realize it. Yet you come out and the biggest fear is, how am I actually going to make money from this in my profession? And what I see is so many practitioners that don't make it just because they don't have the mentorship, the frameworks and the knowledge, and sometimes just the self-confidence to be able to go out and thrive as a practitioner. I hate it. I hate seeing it. I see so many clients that have seen other naturopaths, and when they see me, like they've gone and done all these things, and I analyze what's being done, and I really believe that a lot of it is you just not knowing how to manage your patients properly. So people will drop off just because they haven't really been bought into the process. They haven't got the right language, that they don't get it, and they don't get you, and they don't get what we do. I think what we really need to consider is such a small percentage of the population use naturopaths, nutritionists, and other allied health practitioners, but so many more actually need us. But ultimately, they don't really get and understand what we do. And that is something that I definitely want to talk about today. And this is definitely something I'm going to be working on during my mentorship as well, because they really don't get us. So if they don't get us, how can they actually continue and be bought into the process? So this is the problem that we have. And I would love for you to jump in the chat and tell me, what are your biggest problems? What are you seeing showing up in clinical practice? Is it confidence? Is it that you're not afraid of things? I've been doing discovery calls for this mentorship, right? To talk through people and see if it's suitable for them. And what I'm finding consistently is there's issues with people's self-confidence. You know, I don't have the confidence, or I'm not able, and your patients are going to pick up on that, right? They're going to know that you don't believe in what you're selling. And part of it is you just don't know exactly how to, what I call, journey map them through the process. Sorry, my hair's weird and it's freaking me out. It's better. Okay. That you don't know how to map them through the process. It can be that you find that you do all this good work and you put all the stuff in and they don't come back. And you're like, what happened to you? Like, you're literally getting ghosted by your own clients. And it feels weird. This used to happen to me as well in my first few years of practice. I'm like, what happened to that person? They were doing well. I put in all this work. We seemed like we had a really good connection. And then they just disappear off the face of the earth. There's a reason why they're doing it. I'm going to talk about that. Is it that in their mind, the value versus what they're getting isn't really marrying up? Or is it that you're converting really well and you're just not getting any leads through the door? Okay, so we're going to explore a few things here. So the issue practitioners have, are they not generating enough leads? So that's interest in the business. They're not converting enough, which means the people that they're having for their initial appointment aren't then becoming long-term clients. Again, they might not be retaining clients. You might have a client that gets through like the hard part. They get through the part where they're out of their pain. So they're not like high level pain anymore. And then what they do is they're like, oh, I'm kind of okay. And then they just drop off. So they come in and they come back and then they go, and they do this. So we see that as well. What else? Not enough referrals. So you're doing good work, but patients aren't spreading the word. Like, they're not telling other people about you and raving about you, which they absolutely should be if you're getting good results, right? What about not feeling like you've got enough skills? Okay, this could be clinical skills. It could be that you do need to specialize and upskill in that way. But it could also be soft skills, skills in communication. How do you relate to people? How do you know to tell them what's going to happen? Because you're new potentially. Yeah, or maybe you just haven't seen the volume of patients to see that. So personally, I've conducted 20,000 one-on-one consultations, somewhere in that ballpark. I understand and I can see patterns. And when I have new practitioners that come into the shift clinic, what I'm really meticulous about is helping them to have the language and the framework to know how many sessions is this person going to need and how do you sell it to them so that they know. And by sell, it's not a dirty word, which means we're pushing stuff onto them. How do we move them? How do we compel them to want to do better? And that's what I mean when I'm talking about selling. So we'll talk more about that. Not enough confidence, not enough self-belief, and sometimes toxic beliefs that are really tripping people up. Not enough support. What kind of industry do we do a massive bachelor degree and then we just get sent off on our own? Lucky people will do an internship or get a job at a clinic or where they have that support. But most of you guys who graduate and go out into the world as practitioners, you don't have that. You might work in a clinic, but you don't really get what you need to accelerate that support. And then the other one is not enough action. Maybe you're just not doing enough. And maybe part of that is like a bit of paralysis around that. It could be imposter syndrome. There's so many different layers that we're going to look into here. So we'll go through all of that. There's two parts to this. First, we've got to get clients, and then we have to keep the clients. Okay, so first we need to get new patients through the door, step one. But if we're not keeping them, we are literally pouring our energy down the drain. And we're also not giving them the opportunity to truly heal. I think that's really the travesty of people not getting it and not understanding it is ultimately those patients won't heal and get to their result. Maybe one day after they see a few practitioners and do a few things, etc. But you have the power to really influence their result in that moment. They've chosen to come to you. So they've been in their pain body enough that they really, really have decided they're going to go and pay someone for help. That's when we need to be able to compel them to go on the journey and help them to vision what that looks like. Okay. There's two parts to this, right? So we need to bring in leads, but we also need to look at what are you converting through. Okay. So Vanita says, Tara says, I'm just starting out, so I want to make sure I have people coming in, but definitely self-doubt. Yeah. And thank you, Tara. I'm taking 10 seconds of courage and figuring it out later. Yeah, like kind of fake it till you make it. But sometimes it's, if you have some structures in place, it'll give you the confidence. You know what gives you the confidence the most? Doing lots and lots of consultations. So yeah, 10 years down the line, you will have it. You'll get there. How do we get there faster so that you don't have to go through the long term of that? Vanita said, yes, I feel a bit stagnant currently. And that can happen as well. Tara, it's hard to get results in patients for word of mouth if we don't get past the initial consult. Exactly. And this is what I'm talking about with conversions. So for every patient that walks through the door at the shift clinic, 70% of them will become members. Now, I'll talk about our membership model and how that works. It's absolutely not for everyone, but there's definitely lessons and elements out of it that will be applicable to you. So 70 to 80% of them are becoming members, which means they're with us for a minimum of 4 months, but the average lifetime cycle of our patients is about 18 months. That means some people have been coming for 10 years. Some people only need 6 to 9 months and then they're done. It's very rare that somebody only needs a few months of healing. 6 months is sort of the minimum for most people that you're going to see that have had chronic complex stuff going on, right? So we have very high conversions and very high retention rate. So you're right, we've got to get past the initial consult, and the only way to do that is to compel people. We'll talk about some skills for that as we get into the second half, which is how do we keep clients, right? There's two different ways that we can look at marketing, leads, and bringing people into the clinic. It can be simple, or it can be really, really sophisticated and potentially complicated. At the Shift Clinic, we've been operating for 15 years, so our marketing funnel is quite sophisticated. There's a lot going on. We have the podcast, which generates leads directly through people listening to the podcast. So we haven't done any marketing on the podcast. Every day we're still getting since we launched it. It's clicking along, and we have social media and we're doing like things, but not like paid advertising or anything like that. We're not releasing episodes every day. At least 200 downloads we get. Right now, there are multiple people listening to the shift, which is kind of cool. So people will come through that. We have Facebook ads. We're running Facebook campaigns. We do challenges. So we do a lot of different activity across the board. So as I go through these things, I'll talk about what we're doing. we're a bit of a larger clinic, right? For you, you may not need to do as much as we're doing, but we've sort of got an ecosystem that feeds into several different things. What you need to figure out is what works for you and your business, and test and measure and then figure that out. The other part of it is thinking about, are you in person or are you virtual? So I would love to know, for those of you that are listening, just pop in the chat, are you in person or are you virtual? My guess is the bulk of you are virtual. Since COVID, especially, this is what's happened. People are used to doing virtual consults a lot more. So in our Brisbane clinic, about, I would say 30% of our patients are virtual, maybe 40 even. But of that 40%, about 20% of them are Brisbane based. So they might come in sometimes, but often then they'll flick to virtual just for convenience. But we do have people that want to come in person, like they want to have that experience. And in our Brisbane clinic, we do memberships that include acupuncture, massage, energetic healing, stuff that's kind of needs that in-person stuff. So we've got both, but trying virtual. You know what? Like if you're a naturopath nutritionist, obviously if you're an acupuncturist, this is not going to work for you. But if you have a modality and you can do it, and you can set it up in a way that you can work from home, see a few clients, and you feel okay in that environment, it is the easiest probably on your nervous system once you have the clients. Generating them is another problem, but also the costs involved with being in a physical practice are very, very high. So it's the payoff, right? So people come to work with us at Shift because they want to work in a practice where they're getting supported and mentored in this community, and we do weekly case management meetings. So it's kind of the opposite of working by yourself in an office. But you've got to consider that, like if you're looking at getting leads, it's going to be different virtual than if you're in person. I would argue that, so Katrina says she works from home. So that's like in person from home or on a computer at home. If you have a location, it's easier to do marketing when you're new. There's 1,000 virtual nutritionists and naturopaths right now, right? All over social media, all over everything. Your competition is incredibly high, but there aren't really that many physical clinics. So that's what you need to consider when you're new as well. What's going to work best? Are you going to be better off positioning yourself in a clinic and maybe paying a bit of rent or doing a contractor agreement so that you can build up a little bit of that stuff and gain a little bit more confidence? So there's different methods depending on what you're doing. Okay, so we can see it's sort of a blend of both. Let's look at some of the stuff that we can do. Okay, and I'm going to, let me see, just playing around with my screen, what works best. Okay, low hanging fruit, easy, simple things that nearly nobody does. Okay, our marketing changes over the, so we used to do a lot more of, going into different places and workshops and that kind of thing. Now the podcast brings in the bulk of our leads. We do less. But certainly partnerships have been a really, really important part of our clinic strategy. And this is because if somebody can refer someone to you, it may cost you nothing, usually. Okay. As naturopaths and nutritionists, we need other modalities. We cannot treat patients on our own. Let me explain what that means, because you're probably like, well, I'm okay. Like I could do my stuff. Naturopathy is not a complete form of medicine on its own. It's pretty damn good. You can treat depression and anxiety with herbs, but people need emotional wellness support and often musculoskeletal support. Okay. Not everybody, but you are going to need people to partner with. So you are going to need people to refer off for emotional wellness, etc. All you need is one good relationship with one other practitioner of the thing that you're referring to. So rather than trying to spray out and get everyone to refer to you, it's trying to find one person and creating a really strong cross referral. But to do that, they need to get you and you need to get them. So what that means is you can't just like have a coffee and go, oh, I'm naturopath, I'm an osteopath, oh, that's great, and then expect they're going to refer to you. They need to understand what you do. And a good way to do that would be to offer them a consultation. Or even as a practitioner to get them to sit in on a consultation, potentially, depending on the structure of how you do things. You're wanting to go and see them, and you're wanting to, every time you refer, have a high amount of communication. And so this is one of the easiest ways to definitely do that. And if you work in a clinic, this is one of the big advantages. So I was working underneath my house. That's where I started, right? So like some of you guys, I started working under my house. I work from home. I had a good setup where I had a separate entrance downstairs. It was good. And then the woman who was renting me the house, like sold it. So I moved out of there, and then I worked in a psychology practice with a few other psychologists and reflexologists, which was good, but the owner was a bit strange. And then I moved into a chiropractic practice. By the time they actually poached me and asked me to come and work for them because my marketing was really good, right? I had like my website and my stuff sorted out. So I went and worked in this chiropractic practice, and we had a lot of cross referring. And it was the first time I was like, oh, this is actually really valuable. A good chiropractor that understands what you do and has it in their mindset to refer is really, really valuable. People don't do this. Why? You're scared of approaching people. You're not owning your value. It seems scary or a lot. It's really not that difficult to reach out to people and say, hey, I notice you're doing really good stuff. I'm doing good stuff. Do you want to have a coffee sometime? And see where it goes from there. But trying to find your tribe if you're local. Okay, you can do this virtually if you find, for instance, a counselor that only works online or someone that does somatic therapy. So there is this possibility, yeah? It's just easier when you're in the same clinic or in the same location. Oh, hey, I'm in Paddington, you're in Paddington. I notice we're really nearby. We've got some similar clients. If you're seeing clients that are seeing other practitioners, that's already an in. So one of the things that we do with the gynecologists in Brisbane is if our patients are seeing them, we will ask for meetings. Hey, we notice that we're co-managing a few clients. Can we set up a meeting? And we've gotten a lot of referrals that way by building relationships over time. And Tara says her husband's a chiro. Perfect. So, a cousin? Chiro. Your cousin. Oh, not your husband, your cousin. Cousin's husband. All right, good. We got there. Okay, so thinking about that would be good. What about health food stores? You know, like a lot of health food stores, you're going to be selling their stuff. You're going to be recommending their stuff. Maybe you can offer to come in and do a little talk for them, you know, and collaborate that way. Hey, we're going to be sending people to you. Do you think there's some kind of an incentive or voucher we can give them to get them in? And hey, actually, I've got these vouchers. Would it be cool if I put those? So these kind of smaller businesses can be really good to work with. And thinking about other suppliers, people that you might work with that you might be able to reach out to. Fitness industry, absolutely. There's 1,000 small gyms. Have you guys noticed that? You've got, you know, your 12 rounds, your Fit Stops, your F45s, these are all owned by individuals, right? They're franchises, they're owned by small business owners that are trying to make money. So if you say to them, listen, I have people, I love CrossFit, can I get involved in that? I would even go as far that if you're wanting to do something like that, to join the gym and do it and say, hey, I'm a member of the gym. How can we actually support each other as well? So there's a lot that we can work on with that. We used to work with, we had a gym downstairs, a 12 round. So we worked with them and did a bit of cross referral stuff. If we had an event, they would send us people. If they had an event, we do cross shares on social media and stuff. So it's community based. If you're in community, you need to take advantage of community. People are wanting to engage more in community these days, but it's difficult. Potentially other wellness advocates. You know, like so many people hate health coaches, naturopaths, nutritionists, I mean. We're like, oh, like coaches and they're not qualified or whatever. You know who's a really great referral source? A health coach, because they can't treat complex chronic issues like we can, but they're great at coaching people week to week and having a chat with them and working on their health. So rather than like poo-pooing them, actually meeting up with them and working collaboratively can be really, really powerful. And I would argue, from what I've seen, that as naturopaths, we think we're coaching people throughout their health, but we're not. We're going session to session and we're prescribing and we're not offering them what we should be in that area. So I want to talk about that and potentially teach you how to do it if you join Patient Mastery as well. Okay. So this is very, this is very top level, right? Ideas. What are you doing? How can you do this? We're going to go into some of this more nitty gritty in the, Patient Mastery course that I have. I'll talk about how, but there's just too much to go through in an hour. So we're going to go pretty top level with this. Okay. But hopefully by now you've already kind of got some wheels turning. How about going old school? Everyone these days is like tech, Facebook, whatever. What about doing a letterbox drop? And this could work local or virtually, like, you know, thinking about, all right, well, I'm working out of my office, but I live in Sydney. What are some of the high areas where there's just high population and it's easy to go and drop flyers, you know, for what's going on for you? What about hosting workshops for smaller organizations. So it could be gyms, it could be beauty. It's like, what's similar to us where people are hanging out, where you can actually go in? What about hosting a Facebook Live or something like that for somebody that's in your similar industry where you can offer value? One of the biggest things when we're looking at partnerships and leveraging other people's clients and lists is we need to be able to demonstrate value. How can we give them value so that they can give their people something, and then we in return can engage with their people and hopefully bring some of them over? We host a challenge every 3 and 4 months at the shifts. And this one, not so old school, but we do it over Facebook. We put a significant amount of money into it because we know that we'll get a certain amount of clients back from it. But we also promote our challenges through partners. You don't need to have 1,000 people in your challenge like we do. It would work if you had 50. So if you could partner with, again, local gyms or beauties or whatever to do some kind of a challenge and put that together where you can help people, you can make it really basic where you just go in and do a live and don't even do content. So you don't even necessarily need to make slides and make it beautiful. Like our shift branding, if anyone has seen it, we put a lot of effort into brand. If you're new, maybe it doesn't need to be that much. You just need to be showing up professionally. And then free resources we'll talk about in a second. So how can you offer value ultimately? Partnerships we spoke about, that's a duplicate. PPC is pay per click ads. So this is looking at, things like Google AdWords, using Facebook or Meta, doing Instagram ads, doing TikTok ads, stuff like this. What I find with digital marketing platforms, and this is both me personally, but also working with a bunch of different business owners. So I've been doing business coaching for probably 5 years now, is it's a bit of a money pit. And there's a lot of people in organizations that will take your money and say they're going to set it up, but it can be really difficult. So what I would say with this kind of thing is try it out, make sure that you've got it set up correctly and monitor. I think the biggest reason why people lose so much money with these platforms is they don't monitor it. They just put it in and hope for the best, but they're not checking and changing and adjusting. So this is the one. I'll answer that question at the end, Tara. That's a great question. Okay, so this is where we're coming into like more complexity, right? The more complex. And we're thinking about not just getting them in as new patients, but what happens next? What happens? So let's look at the sales journey. Again, talking about sales in the context of how do we compel them and move them to want to go on that journey with you? How are they finding you? Okay. How are they finding you and how are they coming in? These are the leads, right? So we spoke about that stuff. How are they engaging with you? So what is it like? How are they booking? How are they in? So are they coming in and they're like trepidation and they're not sure if they want to be at a naturopath and they're skeptical? Or are they coming in going, I'm really excited about this because you look like you can really help me? This is a really important differentiation because if they're coming into it with trepidation, it's going to be so difficult and you'll feel it and you'll feel uncomfortable and it creates a weird dynamic. How are they healing with you? This is about them going on the journey. So I call it journey mapping and shift. So trademarked. We call it journey mapping, taking people from A to B through that journey. What does it look like? How are they healing? And how are you being a partner in that healing and making them really clear of different parts of the journey? And then how are they staying with you and why? What compels them to stay rather than just to kind of do a few herbs and then drop off or whatever it is? So let's look at it this way. This is called the ascending transaction model. And it looks at how do people go down through the journey. So if we look at in the top of the funnel, if we have heaps of leads coming in, let's say I need to have 100 leads coming into my business. So that's people that are inquiring, looking at me or interacting with me in some way to get one patient. Okay, it sounds like a lot, but it's probably plausible if you're looking at engaging people through getting them on your mailing list, that kind of thing. What you need to understand about health is that it's relevant to everyone, right? If you niche, this becomes better. So if you're the PCOS naturopath, or if you're the migraine naturopath or nutritionist or whatever it is, if you're that ADHD nutritionist, it will help to narrow this down. And when you're offering your gifts and getting leads in, you're going to get more quality leads. If you're looking at health in general, so let's talk an Instagram account where you're talking about food and recipes and sleeping well and blah, 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 which is what we do at Shift, but then we have our few specialties. everyone, that's relevant to nearly everyone. So you can get people on your list, but you need higher volume. And I just want you to understand that, because I work with a lot of different businesses. And if you're like your naturopath, nutritionist, health, it's more relevant to more people. Therefore, we do need more people in the top of the funnel. So we need to understand how to do that and track that. Okay, so gifts are things that give people quick wins. Okay, it's building your list, and you really do need to get them into an email list. That is very, very important, because otherwise that lead means nothing. They're not going to remember you 3 months later and go, oh, that's right, I did that online quiz and now I want to go back. So we need to really consider that. P for P means products for prospects. What do they do before they fully engage with you? So at the Shift Clinic, our product for prospects are our Heal Your Gut online program, $97. It's an entry-level thing that people can come into. We have a course called Menstrual Cycle Mastery, and it's our initial appointment, which we call our discovery and diagnosis. So the initial appointment is a product that is going to sell them into your core product. Your core product is them actually completing their treatment with you. Whether it be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, your core business should be getting people to that end result for your revenue, your reputation, your self-confidence. Everything really underpins on getting people to that end result. There's going to be people that aren't ready. Okay, you don't have to have 100% success. There's going to be people that aren't ready. They're not showing up. It's not their time. I believe everything has a timing and a gestation. But for the bulk of people, if they're not showing up and they're not doing the stuff, it comes down to how you're communicating with them. So we need to look at that. Okay, so what are you selling them? The journey. And then P for C is product for clients. So this is how are you keeping them there? For us at Shift, we have a wellness membership where people come in once every 3 months. And, usually they might be in a bit of active treatment, but they're pretty good. They're pretty stable. They're seeing us every few months. We're prescribing herbs. We're supporting them, but generally they're okay. So that's what we look at there. So gifts, how do we bring people into that top of the funnel, right? Which is the start of lead gen. You could host a webinar. You could do a masterclass. You could do an ebook and run some Facebook ads or put it out to partners. You could, or on social media. You could do a recipe guide, a fact sheet, a quiz. You could do a free discovery call, which I know a lot of you guys do. And that's something that we do sometimes at the Shift Clinic too. So there's a lot of different things that you can bring them in to offer value. Hey, we're going to give you this little thing and then you can interact with us. You need to get them on your list and then you need to regularly email them. Okay, this is very, very important. We have people on our email list. So I had a client the other day who did a challenge with me 2 years ago. And she was like, oh, Catherine, I did your challenge. I listened to your podcast. And it was like 2 years ago, but she wasn't ready. It wasn't the time. You need to have these people and be engaging with them so that when they're ready, they're going to call you. They're going to jump on and go, oh, I'm really clear on what you do and I'm ready to call. Okay. That is like getting clients, right? I know I went through that a lot. You'll get the replay of this. You can watch it. What I want to talk about now is how do we keep clients, which I think is actually more important than the first. We need to get clients, obviously, to keep clients, but I think this is where people are dropping the ball. Keeping clients is really, really important because if we have empty books, we're not going to make money. And it's just not good for your energy to be constantly chasing. And it's disheartening having new patients coming in and then them deciding not to go on the journey with you. It's just not really fun. So let's talk about a few factors that influence this, okay? And one of them is your personal influence on them. When clients come to see me, and I'm still seeing active clients at the Shift Clinic, I do about 20 clients a week, and then I've got 2 other naturopaths at the moment that do the bulk of everyone else. And they come to see me, and by the time they come to see me, there's a certain amount of trust, okay? So we look at what is influence. Influence equals trust and respect, okay? And influence sounds like a dirty word. It's not like you're trying to manipulate them. You're not trying to influence them into what you want. But having influence means that they're going to listen to you. There's a level of trust and respect. So if we look at the language of this and what it means, trust means demonstrated knowledge. They need to trust that you're the person that knows what to do. They need to know this often before they come into the appointment. If you do a really good diagnostic with them and you're able to explain them and demonstrate knowledge during that appointment, that is amazing. And a lot of you aren't doing that properly either. But that's something we're definitely going to go through in patient mastery, is how do we map out and do a process with the consultations so that we know what works and what doesn't. But it can also be building trust even before they come to you. How do we do that? It's in the language that we use, the communication that we have, the professionalism and the way in which we show up leading up to that appointment. And it's the way in which we demonstrate care and that we're the person for them. So part of it is this credibility piece. This is why, for me, like, we have several touch points before they even come into the clinic. They're watching videos where I'm explaining what's happening and what we're going to do. We do a pre-appointment call, so they're all ready. We're sending them the content and things, because I want them to trust us. We're trying to get them to listen to the podcast before they come in, because they listen to the podcast and it builds trust, demonstrated knowledge that I know what we're talking about and that the shift team has their back. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're demonstrating trust. Respect means how you command and demonstrate the knowledge. How are you showing them that you can do the job? And how are you demonstrating that? You'll get better and better at this as you go along, but there is a formula that will help you to accelerate this, right? This is what I've really been excited about picking apart in the past few years, is why do some people get better and others make the shift? How do we build trust? How do we get them so that they feel comfortable and safe? How do we get them so they don't feel like they're getting sold to or they're pushed into anything, but they can naturally make their own decision based on data and information that we give them in a correct way? Okay. It all comes down to communication and how you're communicating with people. This is massive. And for me, as a master of neurolinguistics, a lot of it is language. But interestingly, there's some really other components of communication. The purpose of communication is the response you get. The purpose of communication is the response you get. So if the purpose of communication is the response you get, you're responsible for what you're getting back. How are you framing this? So when you're communicating to someone and you're telling them stuff, is it that you're just trying to tell them the facts, or is it that you're really trying to get a certain response back from them? Okay. This is really important to understand, because it will change the way that you approach conversations. If we look at it outside of practice, if we go into a conversation, perhaps maybe where there's conflict or someone's not showing up in the way that you need to, going into it like a bull in a china shop with, oh, here are all my needs. What kind of response are you going to get with that? Going in and going, okay, this is the endpoint that I want. How is it going to make you behave and change differently? It's a really interesting thought experiment. Your ability to succeed is determined by your ability to communicate. Okay, I see this time and time again. And if you are able to learn the soft skills of communication, you will engage your clients better. You will enjoy it more, because you'll have better and more meaningful conversations, but they will go on the journey with you. Okay, so let's talk about a few components of that. This is a really big chunk of patient mastery, the mentorship that we're going to be going through, because it's so, so important. Did you know that only 7% of communication is verbal? Only 7% of communication is the actual sound of the words that are coming out. 38% is your tone of voice. Okay. And there you might think, well, what does that mean? Is it high? Is it low, etc.? There's actually like quite a lot on this. This will probably be like a good 15, 20-minute session in when we do patient mastery. But part of it is the inflection of your voice and how that portrays your knowledge and your trust. Okay, so you might notice that I'm talking to you. I am not saying and I'm very clear in my messaging and what I'm trying to get across. I hope that that's what that when you're picking up what I'm putting down. But this is something that we really need to look at. So 38% is tone of voice. 55% is body language as well. How do we show up? And you see that in clients, right? But if you don't know these skills and if you're not getting into natural rapport, their body language may be giving clues that they're not comfortable, they're not listening, they're not doing the stuff. You have a way to turn that around. But if you're not aware of it, then you're not going to see this. So let's talk a little bit about rapport. Rapport is trust and responsiveness. So rapport equals trust and responsiveness. So they need to trust you, and they need to be able to respond in a way in which is useful, not to you, to them. If you know that you can help someone, if you're not sure, don't go selling them into a journey. But if you know you can help someone and you trust your medicine, which you should, and part of that, because it works, both nutritional intervention and naturopathic intervention is incredibly effective for people when you use it right. If you trust that that's going to be happening for them, the very best thing for them is to choose to go on that journey and to value it and put a value on that enough that they then will continue through. Okay. So building rapport is really important part of that. It's everything from body language and how you interact with them. So even things like the way in which your posture is, etc. Like body language tells us so much. So if I'm sitting here on this webinar like this, like, what does it mean to you? If I am gesturing like this, what does that mean to you? Like, body language is a lot more than you might think. And when you're deliberate about it, it can really, really help your outcome when you're looking at people. Language is something I've been nerding out on for a little while now. I love language, and I love how language betrays what is actually going on for people. And by betray, it doesn't mean like, do bad by people. It actually means give away. So language can really give away what's going on for people. And by using the right language, it can really change our interactions with people. Here's something that's kind of interesting. People can only hear what they can listen to. People can only hear what they can listen to. So you can say everything that you want, but if they don't have the capacity to listen, what does that actually mean? I wanted to do that slide, but I'm going to do this one instead. Okay, this is a little bit of neurolinguistics that I want to share with you. And this is going to be probably 2 of the modules are pretty heavy on this in patient mastery, because if you get this stuff, it will change your outcomes phenomenally, and it's cool. Okay, this is what happens when data comes into our brain. We delete, we distort, and we generalize. So what happens with deletion is we remove anything that's not relevant. If we weren't doing this, so if we weren't delete, distorting, generalizing, it would be millions and millions of data points coming into our brain, and we would not be able to function. We'd be in the fetal position. So this is essential to survival, but you've got to understand that this is what people do and how they do it, because they're going to be doing it with the data that you're giving them. Okay. Deletion is where we remove stuff that's not relevant to make it easier. So I'll get you to do a little exercise for me. I want you to put your finger on your nose like this. And I want you to think, tell me a thing. Can you see your finger? The response is probably yes. I want you to take your finger away from your nose, and I want you to tell me if you can see your nose. And the answer is usually no. And the reason for that is you are deleting this, okay? It would be really annoying if you had a big nose-shaped object in your visual field, but it is in your visual field, and you know that because when you put your finger there, it's right there, okay? That is an example of deletion. Distortion is where we recall facts differently without the relevant info. We fill in the blanks, if you will, and we change it based on our model of the world. So you'll see this when people are having arguments and they don't get each other, right? Because they're distorting information and they're taking it on in their own way. Generalizing is blanket statements. Blanket statements that group things together. So it might be like, they're all like that. You might categorize that, I'm a practitioner, we're all practitioners. Okay, so it's generalizing things together. We do it because by chunking up, we call it, like putting it into a bigger thing, it's not as much detail on the brain. So, a couch is a chair, a stool is a chair, a office chair is a chair. They're all chairs. That's an example of generalization. So our brain is doing this constantly at massive speed every single second. So what we need to understand as practitioners is we need to be able to appreciate people's model of the world. What is the model in which they're operating in? Their model of the world is like a filter. So if you're trying to communicate with them and get something across to them, it's going to come through a number of different filters. And one of them is looking at their model of the world, which is built on from their childhood, their parents, their culture and religion, their life experiences, their belief systems, their values, the beliefs of other friends that have around them and how they're influenced. So their model of the world is going to be different depending on what's going on for them. So if their model of the world has been seeing doctors their whole life, hearing about medicine is the only thing, thinking that naturopathy is quackery, but they're giving it a go because of this, it's going to take a lot more for you to get through that filter, right? Because the things you say, you don't have that trust, right? You're trying to go against this model of the world. So we need to really understand that they're going to take information in depending on what's going on for them. And there is a way for us to understand that and work with it a bit more. So we got to think about this, okay? If you're telling them to go on a treatment journey, if you're telling them to go on a treatment journey, can they vision it? Can they see it in their mind, what it looks like? Most people cannot, right? This is what happens. People come in to see a naturopath. They're curious. They've heard other people might do it, but they have no context of what this is going to be. So you come in and you're like, all right, we're going to do herbs. We're going to do thing. And this is what's going on. It's your adrenals. It's your gut, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to start with this. And then I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. Okay, so they can maybe vision that. All right, I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. How does that work? They might come back in 2 weeks. Yeah, like it's kind of okay, whatever. And they might click along okay, but then they hit a roadblock and then they go, this stuff isn't working. And then they just leave. Okay, this happens all the time. And it's because you haven't helped them vision the journey and what it's like. What is it like to go through it? Okay, so this is probably going to take you 12 months. In that 12-month time, there's going to be ups and downs. This is what we're going to be experiencing. So we call this journey mapping. We use diagrams, we use certain tools to be able to get them to really understand what the hell is going on and how they can go through this journey and what it looks like. And I'm getting verbal confirmation from them always at the end of my diagnostic before I'm going into what are we doing next. Can they see themselves moving through this? Okay, can they vision what's going to be happening? And you can do this through simple changes in language patterns and helping to understand their model of the world. It is highly, highly valuable. The other thing that we need to recognize is the stories that we tell ourselves. And this is part of that model of the world, these beliefs that get in the way. So this applies both for your clients and the stories they're telling themselves about you, your credibility, your ability to be able to help them, but also the stories they're telling themselves and the beliefs about if they can be well and if they are going to get there. One of the questions I ask my patients that are chronically ill, like fibromyalgia people, stealth pathogen people, the ones that they're tricky. I ask them and I look for an immediate response. I say, do you believe you can be well? And if they hesitate or etc., I'm sending them for emotional wellness or I'm doing coaching on them, because we can't work with people who don't believe they're going to be well, because there's a part of them that's not the narrative that they're running, right? So there's definitely the patient part. The other part is you. What are you believing? What are you thinking? And what stories are you telling yourself about yourself that are sabotaging your success? So if you feel like you've got imposter syndrome, or like, people aren't going to believe me, or people aren't going to trust me, or, what if I mess up, or what if I don't use the right herbs, or what if I don't get results in a couple of weeks, or what if they don't come back, or these narratives and these stories are impacting your ability to attract clients energetically, definitely to keep clients, and definitely to generate referrals, because people will feel it. Okay, so you can show up with a brave face and fake it till you make it. You're better off getting into the unconscious and clearing some of that emotional baggage. This is what I work with my coaching clients with. We do a lot of energetic emotional releases around belief systems, around parts therapy, like which part of you wants to succeed, which part of you doesn't want to succeed. And these are the things we're going to work through in patient mastery. We have a whole module looking at your beliefs and your ability to draw in success for yourself. It is massive. What I find is that a lot of it is the lecturer's fault at uni. They tell you it's going to be hard and and they've come from historic experience where it's been hard for them. How many lecturers have run a completely thriving practice? A lot of them have done a little bit of practice, and I'm not bagging lecturers. I'm friends with, they're amazing. But think about it from a clinical success perspective. A lot of them are doing a little bit of clinical practice and then doing lecturing on the side to make more money or fulfill that side. So you need to understand that it is possible to be a very successful naturopath, nutritionist, whatever it is. People need us. What we're not doing well is articulating what we do, selling them into the journey, compelling them to do more, and standing in our power and actually being able to take them through that. That is what I want to help you to do. That is what will make the big difference at the end of the day. The stories that they tell themselves is everything. Okay. Let's talk about what happens when they say they can't afford it. Okay. So they might be like, oh, it's too expensive. Who's gotten that? It's too expensive. Okay. It's the most common excuse. I will tell you from experience, it's too expensive 9 times out of 10 usually means I don't see the value in this and I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm not prepared to spend the money. You have people that have literally spent $80,000 to $100,000 or more on a car, a car, and will come in and go, oh, I don't know, this is too expensive. I had a CEO. He was the biggest cattle company in Australia, right? So one of the biggest, like one of the top 2 cattle companies in Australia. CEO of the company, massively cashed up, obviously, but didn't want to do, we had to work through his beliefs and blocks and barriers about spending money on himself, if you can believe it, right? He was totally into doing it and we had the trust, but it was more around his own personal internal beliefs. Really interesting. So I can't afford it means I don't see the value. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I trust you enough. Or I can't imagine it. They can't vision it. So to them, they're like, oh, like it's kind of there, etc. And Tara said here in student clinic, yeah, absolutely. Student clinic's a different breed. You're going to get people that can't afford it in student clinic, right? I think student clinic is amazing because you'll see people there that you'll never see in general public. Like it's a good slice of the population. But in most of our practices, we should be able to attract people that can afford us. And part of that is also like looking at getting into more the business model side of things. What is your pricing? What are you doing for people? That side of things. So we're going to dig into that a bit as well. But just know that I can't afford it. That's what it normally means. How do we then get them to see the value? That's our job. So it's looking at what are you believing? Do you believe that you're worth what you're charging, that you can be successful, that you're a great practitioner? And ultimately, do you believe you can help them? Because you need to believe you can help them in order to move them and compel them to do better. This is a photo of me and Dr. David Perlmutter. He is a massive neurologist in the US, author of Grain Brain. And when I went to do my podcast tour for the Shift season 1, one of the things that I really wanted to do was get sort of these big names. But, I don't have like hundreds and thousands of Instagram followers. I'm a micro celebrity, probably in the naturopath community. Like a lot of you guys know who I am. But really on the broader scale, like I'm not like up with your massive, nationwide people or worldwide people. So I had that I had to really believe in myself and back myself to be able to make this series and to be able to do this and to reach out to these people and know that I could offer value and vice versa. And David Perlmutter came about in like the final hour. I got introduced by other people I was interviewing. I was emailing him. By then I'd gone from LA to New York, got a car, upstate New York, Milwaukee, over to Chicago, over to New York. No, sorry. Yeah, not New York. Over to London, back again, back to Seattle to interview a nutritionist for SIBO there, and then back down to LA. And then I jumped on a plane last minute and flew to Florida and interviewed him at his hotel where he was speaking and got the interview, right? And it was only because I stood up and I was like, I know that what I'm offering is worthy, even though I hadn't created it, etc. So it is really, really important that you believe in what you're doing. And so sometimes, we talk about marketing and all this stuff. Sometimes it's just you. It's about you really believing in yourself and the rest will fall into place. Okay, let's talk about patient mastery. Okay, so this is the course that I'm offering for naturopaths, nutritionists, and other health practitioners. I'm really excited about this. We've already got a group of cool people that I'm working with, but it's going to be so fun. So let me walk you through what we're going to be doing. It's online, so you can do this from anywhere in the comfort of your own home. And in this program, we've got 6 modules, right? And what it looks like is something like this. So I know it might be difficult to see this, but we have 6 90-minute sessions where we're going to dig into the nitty-gritty. It's going to be real usable skills. So what I've given you tonight is top level, right? We're looking at the bigger picture. This is the how to and the details. We have 6 live mentorship sessions. In these mentorship sessions, what I'm going to be doing is getting you to submit cases, problems, issues. And I'm also going to pick a theme or a topic for each month where I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty of how I treat it, how long it takes, how we communicate with people specific to that. And I'm going to do the big ones, things like PCOS, thyroid, stress, etc. So we can get into that. And you can submit questions about certain conditions too. Hey, Catherine, how would you treat this? And we can go through protocols and talk about stuff. So you're going to get clinical skills and soft skills. Okay, so if we go back to the modules that we're going to be going through, so if you look at everything we've presented tonight, it's going to be everything I've told you and like 90% more. So the structure of patient mastery, this is going to be talking about how you structure your consultations. How do you journey map people? How often should you be seeing them? How are you communicating that? How are you structuring your consultations and what are you saying to them? And what are the checkpoints that you need to be covering in order for them to be compelled and to understand what's happening? The next module, we're going to be going into communication and language, neurolinguistics. How do we talk to them and compel them to go on a journey in a way in which they can understand, that they can listen to and take action? There's some really cool stuff in here. Module 3 is getting over objections and roadblocks. This is massive, okay? We need to be preempting them and we need to be able to get people through these rough patches because they're a part of every healing journey, and patients will reach them and they'll give up and they'll drop off. So this is really important. Treating complex and tricky patients. Most of your patients are going to be complex. People at the moment are not well, okay? And it's getting worse. I've been practicing for almost 20 years. The patients I'm seeing now compared to back then, and yes, like I'm better and I've got more, but I think in general, people are just more and more messed up and unwell. So we need to know how to navigate that, because knowing how to navigate that's going to keep them on the journey when sometimes they're not going to feel amazing right away, right? If it's going to take them 4 months to even begin to get significant results, we need to keep them on there until then and to know when to keep going and when to shift. Now, module 5 is the business of naturopathy. I'm going to be talking more stuff under the hood. How do we operate? What systems and processes do we use? What handouts do we have? I'm going to be sharing a lot of our shift resources with you that you can take and edit and work with. I'm also going to be talking about things like models. How do we do programs? How do we do memberships? How do we actually get people compelled on the journey but keep them on there by using our business skills? And then the last one is working on you and what you believe. And we're going to be doing this as we go through a little bit. If you take the platinum option of this, you can do one-on-one coaching with me where I will break through these barriers with you. That's an option, but we're going to be talking about this all throughout the course. So it's going to be fun. Let's look at what we have. 2 90-minute learning modules, 2 90-minute live group mentoring sessions, access to the WhatsApp group. I've never done anything like this before, and I think it's going to be really cool. So I'm going to make a WhatsApp group. It's going to have you all in there, and every day you can ask questions. So let's say there's not another 3 weeks until the next masterclass or whatever. You can jump in there and say, hey, Catherine, I saw this client today. This is what's going on. What do you think? I gave them this. This is the prescription, but this is what happened. And I will give you my feedback as a senior practitioner. I love business. I love coaching. I'm an awesome clinician, and the results I get with patients are phenomenal. And I want to be able to accelerate you to get to this higher level. And that is through direct feedback for 6 entire months. So you basically have a senior naturopath on speed dial to help you with all of your cases. You can tell your clients that, and I would be, hey, did you know I've got Catherine Maslin? She's a senior naturopath. I'm going to run this by her, and then we're going to work together. They will love it. I'm telling you, you can really leverage that. Works amazingly. So we've just got to make that smaller because there's so much value in this. We have templates. Okay, I'm going to give you a lot of the templates that we use for patient letters and emails and different things that you can use along the journey to help to manage your patients. We have a bonus Get Clients Masterclass, which is a bit like this, but more specific on how are we bringing leads in and how are we building the assets that you need in your business in order to bring people through the door. Access to the WhatsApp group is so good that I've put it on there twice. There you go. And mentorship on tap. Build trust by letting your clients know that you're not alone. There's 2 levels. There's gold and there's platinum. My platinum mentorees also receive 2 one-on-one 90-minute coaching sessions with me. This could be for your business. This could be business structure. I want to create a membership, or I want to, make a program. How do I do that? So we can do that one-on-one. There'll be group support to be able to figure that stuff out as well. But it might be moving through your own personal blocks and barriers and doing some sessions and release work around that, which will be really cool as well. Okay. The other thing is you get to come into the clinic and hang out with me for half a day, which is going to be cool. So you can either fly in or come into the Brisbane clinic. If you want to do virtual, I can definitely get permission from some of my clients, and you can come in on Zoom, and my clients will be more than happy to do that. We mentor a lot at the clinic. So we can do a virtual option, but I would suggest coming into the clinic because we can see the patients, do a debrief. You can look at how I communicate and how we work with that. And a full day of patients, I'll probably be seeing 8 to 10 clients. So you can come in and sit in for the day and hang out and learn and observe in real time. So that's a really good bonus with that too. Why am I the person to help you with this? Okay, this is the part where I toot my own horn a little bit, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to own it. I've done over 20,000 one-on-one consultations with people. Okay, this is a lot of groundwork. The amount of liquid herbs that have moved through my practice is just phenomenal. 70% of our clients are with us for more than 12 months. I have a 7-figure health practice. I know how to generate clients, keep clients, move clients, and I've done all of these different types of marketing through different varying times of my career. So I'll know what to recommend if you're low budget. I'll know what to recommend if you've got a little bit more, and based on your specialty, what's going to work the most. Okay, so it's going to be very specialized. I've mentored dozens of new graduates throughout my career. So I know what your pain points are, and I know how to help. So we've been in business almost 15 years. We have won awards. Our podcast has had over 750,000 downloads. I am an international speaker, best-selling author, elite coach, master NLP practitioner, international speaker, and a small business coach and mentor. I know that I can help you on this journey. I am confident that I can deliver on what we can get you done. So let's look at how much the investment is, right? And let's look at this as an investment rather than a cost. What I can say is the cost of this program is 1 long-term client worth of revenue for you, okay? 1 client that sticks with you as a result of doing this will make it worthwhile. So you might look at this and go, oh, 3,250, like that's a lot. In the comparison of what your career is going to be, this is an amazing investment for you to have a foundation to build on, so it doesn't take you years to get to where you need to go. So it's 3,250. There's a cash flow option of 6 payments of 625. The platinum option, where you get the 2 coaching sessions, is 4,250, and the cash flow option for that is 785 per month. So once you sign up, the first payment will come out, and on the anniversary of that month, it will come out. So you really do need to ask yourself, how much do you lose every time someone drops off? How much will it cost you to lose just 1 long-term client? And how amazing of a practitioner do you want to be? This is something that's really going to help you show up. I'm offering a $200 discount from this webinar. Now, if you're in the Kajabi room right now, down the bottom, there's a link that goes to the sales landing page that gives you much more detail about the nitty-gritty of what's involved and what you're going to get. It also gives you a link to book a discovery call. So if you're not sure still after all of this and you're like, I just want to talk about my thing, and Catherine, if you can help me, please book a free discovery call. If you can't find a time, because I know there's quite a few coming up next week, then just message me. Either reply to one of the email, or actually just message, like email me at catherine@theshiftclinic.com, or message me on Instagram or something like that. But I'll find a time for you, I promise, okay? Because this is really important. We start in a week. So the program officially launches in a week. So we're going to start the first Wednesday of August is going to be our first masterclass. So in 2 weeks' time, we will be doing our first session together. So it's not long now. So you use this code. This code is going to be in emails that you're going to get in follow-up to this as well. But I would jump on it because once it's sold out, it's sold out. I want it to be a small, intimate group, not a massive group. And so we can all support each other. So I guess my call here is, Is it time for you to thrive as a practitioner? If you're on this masterclass called Get Fully Booked, my guess is that you're not fully booked. Say, and I would love to help you to get there. So please jump on a call, check out the course. This is something that I think a lot of you will get so much benefit out of. Now, we've got a couple of questions. So I'm going to go through those now. If anyone has any other questions, let me know. But it's been really wonderful having you all on the call this evening. And I know we've got a bunch of people live, but I know a lot of you will be watching the replay as well. So I hope that you've got a lot out of it and that you've learned something that you can take away to integrate in your practice. Now, Tara had a question, and I've just got to find it, about a webinar. Yes, this is hard to get patients in for word of mouth if patients don't get past the initial consult. Where are you? So many comments. Okay, how do you know how much information to give in webinars, as I worry about not giving enough or giving too much info? You know what? You could give everything in a webinar. Everything. And the only reason we haven't gone really deep is this webinar is an overview, and patient mastery is 6 90-minute calls. So we can't go into everything in an hour. It's just not possible. But I can give you the tidbits and give you some actionable things. So the big thing is you want them to take away actionable steps. What can I do? So for you guys, my hope is you should be really thinking about what language you're using. Are you compelling enough? What partnerships can you be making? Doing a bit of a review with that. I would look at offering as much value as you can in order to get the message across. You don't want to go too technical sciencey because it's going to make people drop off and zone out. It's too much information. So depending on what you're talking about, you can go fairly deep and give away a lot of information and then get them in that way. So Crazy says, I see people in the health food spend crazy amounts because they saw it from an influencer so people can afford what matters to them. Yeah. And a lot of your patients will come to you and they're already taking like 6 supplements, but they're not the right ones. So there's a lot of work that we need to do as naturopaths. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, is I know that if we can work on our communication and how we compel people to go on the journey, if people get better results, more people will be out talking about us and what we do and how it helps, and it will help to shift the industry. We're already seeing that. Compared to 10 years ago, naturopathy, nutritional medicine, allied health is becoming much more of a first line of contact. So we just need to keep going, keep building our practice and thriving, and I know that we'll get there. So thank you so much for everyone that's joined me on this masterclass. It's been really great to share this knowledge and hang out with you. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys in patient mastery in the coming weeks, and hopefully I'll see some more discovery calls from you popping up so that we can go in a little bit deeper and see if this is something that's suitable for you and if it's going to help. So have a wonderful evening, or bye.